giant robots smashing into other giant robots.
This is the Giant Robots Smashing into Other Giant Robots podcast, where we explore the design, development, and business of great products. I'm your host, Chad Pytel, and I'm joined today by Raja Rajamannar, Senior Fellow at Mastercard. Raja, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me, Chad. I appreciate it. I'm very impressed with how correctly you pronounced my name. I'm super impressed.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's always good to start with a compliment, too. So you're currently Senior Fellow at Mastercard. You were previously Chief Marketing and Communications Officer there, and you were the founding president of its Healthcare Solutions division. Wow. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a very productive and fulfilling journey so far. And I hope the future also holds some good excitement and, things that I would like to accomplish. So let's see. Man proposes, God disposes.
Yeah. Well, what in your role as Senior Fellow, what does a Senior Fellow do now? Or are you still figuring it out?
No, actually, this has been a well thought out transition. So as of the 1st of January this year, I gave up my operating role of Chief Marketing and Communications Officer of Mastercard at the enterprise level, and also the president of the healthcare business. This senior fellow role is essentially one of thought leadership. It's very strategic in nature. It's about rethinking, not just for Mastercard, but for the entire industry, what should marketing be about? And how do we reinvent and reimagine marketing for the future, on the one hand? Secondly, same thing on the healthcare. Healthcare system, everyone talks about it as being broken, not just in the United States, but around the world. How do we make sure that we are going to solve the problems in the healthcare? So this is very strategic, a lot of thought leadership. And I also mentor a lot of senior folks from the industry, not only from Mastercard, but I do mentor several CMOs, sitting CMOs of various large and small companies. So that's one thing. I also interact very closely with academic institutions, and particularly Harvard Business School and Yale School of Management. I joined them as of 1st of January this year as an executive fellow in both these places, where I work very closely with their faculty and try to see how we can improve the teaching of marketing. How do we improve the curriculum at MBA programs? And how do you actually impart knowledge for the future to the operating executives at various companies? So this is how sort of we are approaching it. And it's going to be pretty, interesting journey, very exciting and highly stimulating. And also be a sounding board to my CEO and the board members at Mastercard. So if they want to ask about something, they say, hey, we are trying to do this. What do you think about it? These are some of the big bets that we want to take. What do you think about it? So I'll be weighing in appropriately and responding to them.
As you said, it is a well thought out transition. And it sounds like you have a good handle on what is involved. But I'm curious, has there been anything that you didn't expect or that surprised you or that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, the surprise was I thought that I'll have probably more time for myself. And that surprise, I'm as busy, if not more, compared to what I was doing before. Except what is keeping me busy today is fairly different than what was keeping me busy till now. Mm-hmm. And I'm also in the process of writing my second book, which is also very consuming. So it's deeply fulfilling, and I'm trying to put my heart and soul into it, and hopefully it'll turn out to be a great book. But that's another thing which I'm sort of spending time on, and I'm working, a few boards, and it's keeping me extremely busy. And I thought the time that I'll have for myself is not to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in 2020, I believe, that's when you became the founding president of Mastercard's healthcare business. Obviously, Mastercard is known for payments. So how did that come about? And what similarities were there between healthcare and payments that you were able to draw upon Mastercard and its resources for?
So when I was, before joining Mastercard, I was in the healthcare industry. Mm-hmm. So I was there with two insurance companies, health insurance companies, Humana and WellPoint. So WellPoint is now it is called Elevance Health. So I was actually at both these companies, and I understood the healthcare business from the payer's perspective, from the insurance company's perspective. And also along the way, I joined after I left the healthcare industry there, came to Mastercard. I also joined Bon Secours Mercy Health, which is a not-for-profit Catholic organization, and it's one of the largest Catholic health systems in the world. And they have operations here in the US, in Ireland, and in the Philippines. So that gave me unique insights into how providers ecosystem looks like: the hospitals, the doctors, the ambulatory services, and the devices, and so on. So I saw a fantastic opportunity based on my experience and insights into the healthcare system from two different perspectives, from the providers and from the payers. And of course, I have been a patient, and my family members as patients, as consumers, I saw what are the horrors of the healthcare system here. So I said, we need to solve it. Now, the beauty is there are dramatic similarities between, for example, credit card business and healthcare business. And I'll tell you how. So in credit cards, what happens? You first apply to your bank to get approved for a credit card. They give you a limit, and then you start using the card. So, for example, you go from here to Jakarta in Indonesia. So in Jakarta, you go to a shop, and then you tap your card or swipe your card. The signal from that mag stripe or from the chip card gets picked up from the terminal, goes to the local bank, say Bank Bhumiputra. Bank Bhumiputra says, hey, this is a Mastercard card. So they relay it via satellite to St. Louis here. And in Mastercard St. Louis, we say, hey, this card belongs to, for example, Citibank. And Citibank has their operating center in Sioux Falls. So it goes to Sioux Falls. And then Mastercard at Citibank looks at the record of the individual, say, yeah, this person it looks genuine transaction, looks like he has got the credit card, the limit and everything is available. They say approve, comes back to St. Louis, goes to Jakarta. From there, it goes to the shop. And the shop says, done. The transaction has come through. You can pick up your item and then go. This whole transaction takes less than 6 seconds. Now, in credit cards, you are first using the services and paying later when the bank bills you. Now you flip it around in healthcare. You first pay the health insurance company. Then they underwrite you what they call actuarial risk, medical risk for you. And then each time you go to a hospital or to your doctor, you swipe your card or whatever for co-payment. The hospital submits the bill to the insurance company, and the insurance company adjudicates and says this claim is passed, this claim is not passed, goes back and makes the payment after whatever is their service level agreement they have, typically 90 days. So that's when the doctor or the provider gets their payment. So it's just flipped. The dynamics are identical, except credit cards are exceptionally efficient, and you have got healthcare system which is exceptionally broken. It's a disastrous. Now, just imagine if you go to your shop, say today you're going to, say, for example, Walgreens. Now, you don't call your bank and say, hey, I'm going to Walgreens, can I use my card? Right? The level of sophistication is much, much higher. At the same time, the level of complexity in healthcare industry is significantly higher. So there is a better place that we have to get to than where we are. And things like fraud, abuse, wastage, all these are in credit cards too. And we have perfected detection of fraud like that. So, for example, if Raja has gone and made a transaction today in Dallas, Texas, at the same time, there is a transaction in Dubai, in the UAE. The chances that I'm present at both the places in a matter of few minutes difference is close to zero. So the credit card company flags it as a potential fraud. Okay, and then they say fraud early warning. They try to block that particular transaction to protect the consumer. Same thing happens in healthcare. So if I'm going to a doctor and the doctor says, hey, I have done a pregnancy test on Raja. Now, clearly it is a fraudulent kind of a claim he is submitting. And this is very obvious examples I'm giving. But when you look into the details of this healthcare system, there are so many sophisticated ways you can track fraud. Using the algorithms of credit cards, it's unbelievable. And that's what we are trying to bring to the table. So we got HSA cards, FSA cards, which are payments in the healthcare space.
Yep.
And then you have also got fraud, you have got marketing, you have got consumer engagement, and so on. So we're trying to deploy the full range of services that are there in credit cards adapted to the healthcare industry.
Obviously, what you just described is only touching the surface, and we can start to see how complex it is. And the industry is not only complex, but as you said, it's broken. So how do you navigate that to actually, be successful, make something that can go to market in any reasonable amount of time?
So this is a very important point that you make, right? Because it's not only being successful in the marketplace, but even getting the permission to play in this market from your CEO, from your board of directors, because nobody wants to be encouraging an effort that strays so much away from your core business that the market starts questioning, have these guys lost focus and direction? Why are they now going all over the place instead of sticking to their core business? And there's not even an adjacency. It is quite distant away from typical payments. So the key thing is, first, you have to give a sense of comfort to your board of directors that we have not lost the plot. We are taking the core capabilities, repurposing them with minimal investment, and tackling an aspect of the healthcare that is closest to our core business, in this case, healthcare payments. So we went therefore with HSA cards and FSA cards. You prove the value proposition there. You prove that this is a business that we can handle and successfully get results. So having done that, then you go to the next layer. How do we detect fraud? And then next layer, how do you deploy rewards and consumer engagement, in this case, patient engagement? How do you deploy data analytics in this case? How do you deploy cybersecurity that we see? Like, for example, there is a statistic I have come across. So on an average, for example, a company like Mastercard is hit like 800 times every single minute in terms of cyber attacks around the clock, around the year, which is humongous. So we have learned a thing or two about cybersecurity. Now, when you go to healthcare industry, it's very fascinating that 1/3 of all the large data breaches in the entire system happens from healthcare system. 1/3. It's a because they are more vulnerable and they are less sophisticated in general. So can we take our cybersecurity specialization here and offer services for the healthcare system where we can give them cybersecurity solutions? And we are doing it. So what you do is you're not creating something from zero. You're taking what is already there and thoughtfully go step by step, prove the value proposition, prove that you can get momentum, and then go to the next one. So that is how we have been approaching this, and the board has been very supportive.
So the customers of healthcare solutions from Mastercard are it's B2B, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's either hospitals or the insurance companies or Medicaid, Medicare.
Did you face resistance in the market? Did people, were they ready to just trust Mastercard?
Actually, it's pretty fascinating, right? The first question you get is Mastercard and healthcare system. It doesn't sort of gel. They say, what do you even do? What do you even know about healthcare system? But then when you start explaining, suddenly the lights go up and they say, okay, fine, we get it. But interestingly, what also happens is, because Mastercard is outside of the system, it brings a level of brand credibility and neutrality to the entire equation. So therefore, people are willing to play with us.
So you've been switching gears a little bit. I think, obviously AI is a big topic on every show we do, but you've been talking about AI for a long time, even before the current sort of generative AI work that's happening now. But just in general, how have the last few years, as this has rapidly evolved, generative AI? I mean, how has that changed your perspective, or where are you at now?
So one of the things, you're absolutely right. We have been experimenting with AI for more than 12 years now. And in my book, which I wrote in 2021, which got published in 2021, actually one of my prognosis of the artificial intelligence area, I said this is going to augment the human intelligence, human productivity, human creativity, and so on and so forth. And I said there is something which is like a capability that will come up. Without calling it generative AI, at that time I didn't have that term. I said we're going to have an artificial intelligence of a different type going into the future. Number one. So this is something which I anticipated, and I feel very validated that this has come about. Secondly, I see that this is probably the single biggest enablement for anybody across the board, whether it is a business, whether it's marketing or finance, or it is HR, or it is a small business, or it is patients, or everywhere across the board, right? Unbelievable level of what do you call enablement that has actually happened. Now, in the business context, I have started playing with it pretty early on. So probably in a month or so after generative AI solutions have been made available, we jumped on board. And I have created on behalf of Mastercard a solution. We call it RFP Factory. So what happens is we have got about 60,000 banks who are our clients. And they renew every 3 years or 5 years for their contract with us. So before they renew the contract or before we get on a new customer, they send an RFP. And it takes about 7 weeks for us to do a half-decent RFP. We call it draft zero of the RFP. And after the draft zero is done, which basically fills all the answers to the questions that are being asked in the RFP, and then we start constructing the deal, saying that what's the pricing, what the proposition that we're offering, services we are offering, and so on, and incentives and so on. So what I said is that can generative AI take away the drudgery and create the draft zero very rapidly? So we trained the AI engine on every single RFP that Mastercard has done in the last 10 years. And we also provided it with the content, the latest and the best, which is constantly updated. So it has got the plugins into our databases. And so today, if a bank is sending an RFP, it comes to us. We give it to the AI engine. This RFP factory is what we called it. In less than 4 hours, we have draft zero available. 7 weeks to 4 hours.
Yeah.
And the satisfaction level, because then what we do is we are still scared about hallucination and falsification of content or misrepresentation, whatever. We have a human oversight on top of it. So after the AI gives us the RFP draft zero, people go through it and then say, yep, this all looks good. So by end of day one, we are done with the draft zero.
I like that term draft zero. Did you use that term before you were doing the AI generation of it, or?
No, it's only with the AI generation.
Yeah. It's a very, it strikes me as like a comfortable way to really communicate that this is not the draft. This is not what we're going to put in front of people. It is the first version that we will then take and continue to work on.
That's exactly right. So we do exactly that. So what we now do is that draft RFP, what we say draft zero RFP. So we have got, number one, internal customer satisfaction, which is our salespeople, 95% plus. The quality is actually far superior than the ones which are made manually. The answers are sharper, more consistent with our brand tone. The content is the latest. And what it does is it looks at what's worked in the past, what did not work in the past as part of the training. So it picks up all the winning elements, combines it, and then spews it out. So this was our very first effort. We went into something called the marketing engine. So this marketing engine is something which we created and developed and launched in Singapore. So what it does is it looks at all the signals from social media and traditional media and says what is trending now and what will trend tomorrow. And these trends are micro trends, which means the trend does not last for more than 3 days. We call it micro trend.
Okay.
So we say that if you can give your message that is consistent with a micro trend and write that micro trend as it is coming up, your media is cheap, number one. Your message is much more contextually appropriate, and the output is going to be very, very effective. So this Gen AI thing, what it does, first it analyzes everything in real time. It predicts what is going to be your next micro trend, creates an ad for that micro trend based on the library of offerings that we have got. It looks into the library and says, this is probably the most appropriate thing that I should talk about in this particular micro trend conversation, creates a communication around it, buys the media, puts it in, measures the response, and by the end of the day tells me, is it working? And how do we improve for tomorrow? Now, this is a game changer because the effectiveness has gone up something like 4 to 8 times. So we're not talking about percentages here, we're talking about multiples. So this is one kind of a thing. We have done things like what we call as the Mastercard Design Studio. So if you are a bank, you want to issue a card. So you are Citibank. So you want to issue a card for youth. So you brief your agency. Agency gives you, after a few days, designs. You like some design, refine, come to the final product, send it to Mastercard for approval. Because your design has to be consistent with my branding guidelines.
Right.
And I approve or decline. If I decline, you go back to square one. If I approve, you go ahead with it. So we said, here's a silly process. So we have now a design engine where you as Citibank plug into my system. You say, this is my audience, this is youth, this is what I'm trying to communicate. They give a small brief. It immediately gives them 20 designs which are pre-approved for brand consistency. They like something, you're done. So what would take, again, multiple weeks is now a matter of few hours. Area by area by area. Look, on the creative side, it's been amazing for us.
Tell me more about, this is a show about building great products. So tell me more about the team that you work with to do those kinds of projects at Mastercard. Is it a small team? Is it a huge team? How do things go from idea to a launched thing?
So the team comprises of 3 different types of people. Number one, my own team members who are employees of Mastercard in different geographies. They may be within marketing, they may be outside of marketing. It doesn't matter. They're employees of Mastercard. Number 2 is my agency people. So we have got agencies of record, like we have got Omnicom and or WPP, and then we have got those agencies supporting us. And the third one is brand new companies, startups, or outside companies who come and pitch to us with an idea. So these are 3 different groups. So internally, we do what is called an innovation challenge, where if you have an idea of how we can deploy a new solution or how we can create a new solution, we have a panel of my leadership team who would evaluate and then prioritize and take 1 or 2 or 3 at the most at any point in time of these initiatives. And they are funded. And the person who came up with the idea is the one who leads that project. So there is a sense of ownership and pride of ownership. So that's one.
Actually, do they do that in addition, like as a part-time thing, or do they actually move over to work on that full-time?
It depends on how big the project is. The project is big, they move on. But they go back to their original job after the project is done, if it is a project. But if it is an ongoing kind of a thing, they move completely. Now, on the other hand, if this is a small project, say it takes about 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever, they sort of take a break from their regular role and then go back to that role. So this is number one. Number 2, for the agencies, we have competitions happening within the agencies in exactly the same way. They don't have to be people only working on Mastercard account. They can be from anywhere across IPG or Omnicom or whatever. So they come up with an idea, and every quarter we have a meeting with them. They say, hey, here are 10 ideas we have got for you. We may like something, we may not like anything. But then the ones which we like, we say, let's commission. And then we move forward with that. The third one is, this is something which I find is fantastic. A lot of people, they come and pitch. And hey, we got this new solution, we got this new concept, we got this new product. Many times, innovation happens much better outside large organizations than within organizations, because in organizations, you're busy with your day-to-day. But those people that are outside, who are startups, etc., they do it for a living with passion and tremendous amount of focus and energy. So when we partner with them, that becomes a phenomenal win for them because they're getting a brand like Mastercard in the scale of Mastercard. And for us, it is like quickly jump starting and going to market pretty rapidly without having to go through the usual cycles of development and stuff like that. To do all this, we carve out a small percentage of our total budget. So specifically for these innovation projects. So I cannot tell you the exact percentage, but it'll be in high single digits of my total budget.
Sometimes that bogs big companies down is decision making about where to put that budget. Was it just you making that decision? Was it a committee? How does that work?
It's my leadership team.
Mm-hmm.
And in the leadership team, there is a strong disagreement between folks. They always bring me in. But otherwise, I cannot become a bottleneck to the speed of progress.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. So you mentioned one of the first projects that you did with generative AI was an internal improvement, improving your internal RFP process, speeding it up, making it more fulfilling for the people doing the work because they could focus their energy on the things that they want to work on. I think that's where I see a lot of companies first hit, and we've been brought into, people, especially early on, people felt like we should be doing something. I'm getting this mandate from my CEO. And they would bring us in, and they'd be very focused on customer-facing features. But then when we actually talked to them and went over all the problems that they had and what problems they might solve in their product, we would almost always uncover something internal that could be improved in a more organic way that would deliver value and return on that investment in a very measurable way, rather than something consumer facing, which might take longer, might have more scrutiny, and then might not be very measurable. So that's what I'm seeing. So how do you balance that internal improvement versus or a meaningful incorporation of AI into a product, and just the pressure that people might be feeling to do something?
So I think they are not mutually exclusive, right? Today, there are as many internal projects, but probably there are more external projects than internal projects. Like when I talked about that card design, it's a totally external project.
Yeah.
For our clients, for our customers. Same thing we do. If, for example, if we want to create music for any videos we are creating, for any advertisements we are creating, now we have got it. We call it the Mastercard Sonic Studio. So the Sonic Studio gives the brief, and compliant with the Mastercard brand tune or brand melody, it composes beautiful music in any genre that you want. And this is available to us. This is also available to our clients. So they can tap into it as well. And so the point is that we have started getting a lot more confidence to say that this can become client facing. Initially, you want to eat your own dog food before you start feeding it to others. Once you know that your dog is thriving with the dog food that we have created, you confidently go out and then give it to other people, because client relationships are very critical. And if you mess them up, it's a real loss in business. And the ability to recoup the trust, recoup the credibility is a lot higher. So you have to be very, very, very good at what you're doing in terms of the diligence. So the more you practice internally, the more you're able to serve it externally. That's how I actually see it. And we have actually, last count that I have seen somewhere in December, we have more than 30 different AI projects in the initiative. Out of the 30, probably 28 will be external. And they're completely different from each other.
Yeah. And when you market these or put these out there, how sort of do you always say this is powered by AI?
No, AI has become such a buzzword on the one hand. If the customer asks, hey, is this powered by AI? Yeah, of course it is. Now, it's like today you don't talk about, oh, is this digital? Everything is digital these days. So AI is becoming so pervasive that it is shocking that something does not have AI. But is it an AI led or is it an AI supported? They are two different things altogether. So, for example, if you look at something like my RFP factory internally that we have done, it is AI supported.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at something like a design studio or Sonic Studio, these are AI led.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, same thing, like, for my creation of ads, it is AI led.
Mm-hmm.
The digital marketing engine is AI led. So there are some which are actually driven with AI being at the forefront, and some of the customers they love it because not everyone is investing a lot of money in AI. So if we are doing all the research and developing products on their behalf, and then we are showing them, they say, "You have this Mastercard tested, Mastercard validated. We are bringing our brand trust and credibility to the table," so they adopt it very comfortably. And with a lot more confidence. And that's exactly what we are trying to do. And I would also say that we don't confuse, depending on the level of evolution. There are some companies which are very sophisticated. So you talk to them about the finer differences between GEO and the rest of the AEO, and before that, the SEO. Many companies, like, for example, the credit unions, they don't have even a marketing person for most cases.
Right.
So you don't need to confuse. You say, "Hey, you do this is what you will get. Today you are doing this is what you're getting. Follow my new solution. Don't worry about how electricity is generated. Just switch on the switch and then the light will come on. You are bothered about the light, let me bother about the electricity."
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. AI is like electricity. So we have to tap into it appropriately. And there are lots of companies which are producing it, like whether it's AI or Anthropic or OpenAI or Anthropic or Gemini, Google, or whoever else it is there. They are the electricity generators, in my simple analogy.
Mm-hmm.
We tap into that electricity and we create bulbs, we create fans, etc. And those are the things we sell it to our customers and to the consumers.
So it sounds like sometimes you're going to incorporate AI into the marketing plan, but other times you might not. And what I'm hearing too is you might have a different message for one profile of customer and a different message for a different customer.
That's exactly right.
So how are people messing this up now? What's the biggest mistake people are making?
See, I think there are three big mistakes as I see. The first mistake is companies are not experimenting enough. They are not investing enough amount of training resources to get their people up the curve. If being in the field, you understand it fully. The speed with which AI is developing and new things are happening, 4 weeks back you got open cloud, then something else happens. Now you have got something else happening. Right. Now, if you are still stuck in some 2 months back, you're already obsolete. Your knowledge is already obsolete. So you have to really constantly educate your talent and train them up. We are not doing enough as companies. I think that's my biggest worry. And this is what is happening with many companies. So this is a big what is going wrong. The second thing, companies are not fully understanding the risk. Like, for example, I serve on the board of directors of a public company, and we were discussing as a board. Now, many people think that it's okay to just take that, whatever the reports are, put it into some engine, and then get the summary, get it to surface good questions and stuff like that. It is a huge risk if you don't understand where you are putting and what are the risks of it getting into the public domain. And that has happened multiple times. So how do you really protect yourself and your company? I don't think companies are paying enough thought on that. That's number two. The third one for me is the disruption that AI is going to create. It's very easy to say, yeah, people will lose jobs, but this will create many more new jobs, and therefore life will all be good. But the reality is the people who are losing jobs are not necessarily the ones who are going to be in those new professions, because the leap from here to there is not easy. It's not organic. I'll give you an example. I know in one of the agencies, about 8 senior copywriters in the age group of 50, 55, they have been their roles have been eliminated because AI is so damn good. It understood the tone of the clients, it understood, and it does things with speed, and it works 24/7, and it doesn't ask you for perks. It's so efficient, cost efficient, and it also produces great work. Now, these 8 people have lost their jobs. Now, it's easy for us to tell, you have to now upskill yourself. What will they upskill themselves on? It's not a straight, easy path from here to there, if at all. So my concern is we are not thinking as companies and as a society as to what the implications are and what kind of a disruption, because a lot of white collar jobs are being lost at scale.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big worry. So how do you prepare because this is the train has left and it's gaining momentum by the day. So you cannot keep moaning about it at this point and complaining about it. You have to do something about it, but we're not doing anything about it, both as companies as well as because some of your employees are very concerned. Is my job going to be here tomorrow? And if people are feeling insecure, the level of productivity is not going to be great. And you want happy employees at the end of the day, not insecure employees who don't know if their job exists tomorrow or not. And each day they see an announcement that 10,000 people laid off here, 5,000 people laid off here. Their heart starts sinking and they're scared. That's not how it should be.
It seems to me like the first one and the last one are linked, because the first one was spending more time training people and keeping them up to speed.
True.
But as you said, when we were talking about another topic, it can be hard because you're running the business day to day. It's hard to stay on top of the latest new advancement, new release, the news, to try out the tools while also doing your work. So have you found a good strategy for being able to learn on the job?
See, I found a strategy for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to ask my team to see if they can emulate. Like, for example, I spend about 5 to 6 hours every weekend learning.
Mm-hmm.
I set aside that time. Now, in my life stage, where my kids are already grown up, my attention is probably much less required. Therefore, I can afford to spend that kind of a time. But then I have to spend time. I could have used it some other way, but I chose to use it for learning. Number one. Number two, I actually reach out very actively to people and then say, hey, can you teach me about this? I heard about this open cloud. What the hell is an open cloud?
Yeah.
What happened with the whole thing? Okay. And how is it linked to the agents, and what is the agent of agents? I'm asking these questions, and instead of just doing OpenAI or ChatGPT or Perplexity say, tell me about it, I reach out to people and talk to them. I ask them, and they are very, very helpful. Not because I'll give them business, because in my new role, I'm not even in an operating role. Mm-hmm. But people are generally good. And when you ask them questions, they will actually answer. They will take time to do that. So I seek mentorship, even from the junior most people when it pertains to AI, because they are much more senior to me in AI, and therefore I don't have any hesitation asking them for help. That's number two. Yeah. Number three, I do projects. It's hands-on. So one is to learn intellectually. The other one is to actually do it yourself. The level of learning is completely different. Now, as a CMO, for example, if I have to guide people who are experts, I need to know at least what questions to ask. And if they're giving me answers, to figure out, are they real answers or is it just spin that's being given to me? A spin narrative, right? And I find that doing things is the best way to learn anything. You immerse yourself, you dirty your hands, you play with it, and then there you are. So I try to build my own stuff, quite a bit of stuff I actually experiment with. Before I knew that everything could be sort of outsourced into cloud, I actually invested a lot of money into getting big machines at home. And I said, this is my own AI studio. Now, I have a physical AI studio, which gives me the advantage of being offline and my data not being in the public domain. But on the other hand, it is not even needed, because everything is now fairly secure and you can have in your own, in the cloud, whatever you could do. So point being that accessibility is very easy in these days. to the tools. It's very, very, very cheap. $20 a month. Most of the people who are executives or managers or even junior people, they can afford, and companies have to support them. Now, companies are already putting things like Copilot, right? If you are a Microsoft system, you have got Copilot. Even to get people use Copilot, it's a task. And we actually keep tracking how many people are actually using it and who is using more, in terms of not to track them, but to see how is the adoption of this tool, because this is a free tool available to everyone. We have frequently workshops. Like just last week, there were 2 workshops, and I was just asking my assistant, saying that, look, I would like to sit in those workshops because I want to see what else can I do as far as Copilot is concerned, and how do I adopt it into my personal life, and how can I actually do a personal assistant for myself, and so on and so forth. And I find it's deeply, deeply empowering. It's really, really enabling, but very important. It's empowering. We have had multiple times professors coming from various universities or outside speakers coming in and teaching my team on different topics, including AI or behavioral economics or neurosciences and so on, because all these skills are necessary for a good marketing or a good business person. And I don't think anyone has really cracked the code yet. I was at the verge of trying to do something which I sort of held off from doing it, which is like, when I heard that there was one company out of UK, it's a Fortune 500 company. They have done it where they said, unless you graduate in these certification courses, you will not be eligible for applying for any internal roles, or you will not be eligible for promotion. So it's a little bit of a stick and a strong motive for you, not learning for the sake of learning and being better at your job. But if you want to advance, unless you get this certification, you will not get it. Now, I thought that was probably a little too draconian at this stage, but that's why I didn't do it. But I think we have to find out. I don't think anyone has cracked the code.
One thing that we've found works well, and this is true all across thoughtbot's history, but is particularly true now when there's big changes. And with AI, there's just so much going on and new things being released all the time. Having a culture of sharing internally and systems set up for sharing internally is a great way to not one person can't learn everything, can't experiment with every new tool. But if there's a culture of collectively, we're all trying the different things and then sharing back what we learn to the group, that's a really good way. And then it also gets people excited and shows that there's momentum behind something.
That's such a good point. That's a fantastic point. And now that you mentioned, I remember we have multiple teams groups. Specifically focused on AI, and they are like, different. Not everyone is part of the same team,
right?
But they actually try and do depending on what they are. And part of the times, or many times, when you see that somebody has discovered something, or they found that there is a new application or a better way of doing something, you can jumpstart and then go to that. So your point is such a valid one. I agree.
Well, to wrap up here, I have both a question, and it's also a little bit of a selfish question as well. And that is to tap into your marketing expertise, because while you were, during your time at Mastercard, I didn't want to talk about it in the past. I want to Mastercard has become one of the fastest growing brands globally. So what's your secret? How might I leverage that for thoughtbot?
So a couple of things. So firstly, you really want to be crystal clear about, if you have a magic wand, what do you want thoughtbot to be? It is not a facetious question. You need to be crystal clear as to what this one should stand for. What should this mean? What should people think about? What emotions should it evoke in people when they think of that particular brand? I think that people underestimate. You've got a broad, vague idea of Mastercard should be a good payment product trust, and it should be global, and it's sort of universal. Stuff like that, that's so shallow. You need to really understand it fully. So that's the first thing. Second, I think spending time thinking through how to make that happen, the strategy is critical. And strategy, to my mind, cannot be outsourced. You have to have strategy from within the company. That will be very critical. People have to own it. Hiring a consulting company, delegating it to them, they give you something, and then you start. It's not your work, it's some consultant's work. Strategy is something which you have to live through and evolve it. So that's the second thing. Third, consistency. You have to be agile and be conscious of the changes around you and adapt yourself, but you should be consistent with who you are as a brand. And that is so critical. And this is the biggest fatal flaw for many companies, where they're going with something and suddenly they find out, oh, there's a big change or a new competitor. How do I reposition myself? How do I change my characteristics? No, that you should never do that. You should demonstrate a different facet of your brand, but you cannot change as a brand just because, meaning you should be deciding what your brand is, not your competitors or not some environmental change, right? These look like theoretical exercise, but here is something I'll offer you on the podcast I'm telling you. So we are on record, right? So I'll be very happy to sit with you and help you think through it.
Well, that's very generous of an offer. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So you can take it up on that, and I'll be absolutely happy to help you think through it. And then also, it doesn't require a boatload of money to spend to build a brand, right? That's a misconception. We're not a big brand, we're a small. No, your thinking on your brand is small. Forget about your budget. If you think your brand big, there are ways you can make it happen. And I'll tell you, there is one small example, if I can just quickly give it. Yeah. Have you heard of Dubai chocolate?
Yes. There's signs up for it at a shop not too far away from me. It's gone absolutely viral. I've never even had it, though.
You know, what was the marketing budget?
Well, I'm guessing since you're asking, it was very small.
$500.
Amazing.
It's become a global phenomenon. And if you look at the chocolate, and it's not the product innovation there, because the product was there. There was a brand called Pachi, which was there forever. I used to eat Pachi chocolates when I used to eat chocolates in early 1990s. You know, with the same pistachio core and the chocolate outside, the crispiness inside, and all that good stuff. But the way these guys have done it, extraordinary, $500. So my point is, there are methods and ways of doing it economically. Take a brand like Liquid Death. Okay, Liquid Death. It's an extraordinary brand, and I don't know what the brand valuation, company valuation is, but they started doing some crazy things which are in line with their brand positioning and brand manifestation with very little budget at the start.
Yeah, their marketing is, I remember I was just starting to see it everywhere. My kids, and I said, "Are you allowed to have that? What is that?" And it turns out it's water.
Water, exactly. See, it's so rebellious, radical kind of an approach. So you need to think. So if you think big about your brand, you'll come up with big ideas. And big ideas don't have to cost a lot of money. That's the point I'm saying. So irrespective of the size of the company, you can create magnificent brands that are larger than life.
That's incredible. Raja, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your wisdom today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chad. Really appreciate having me with you on this call. And I look forward to a follow-up conversation on your brand journey.
Awesome. You can subscribe to the show and find notes for this episode at giantrobots.fm. If you have questions or comments, email us at hosts@giantrobots.fm. You can find me on Mastodon at cpytel@thoughtbot.social. And Raja, if folks want to follow along with you, where are the best places for them to do that?
I'm active on LinkedIn. It's basically Raja Rajamannar. That's my name, and that's what I'm called on the LinkedIn. I also have a Twitter handle with the same name. And I've got an Instagram, which I don't update it as often as I should be, but that's also there. And I have a newsletter on LinkedIn, which I actually release it almost every month, talking about the futuristic thinking around marketing in an easily understandable, easily consumable format. Very short, takes less than 5-6 minutes for you to go through. But hopefully every letter sort of opens your eyes to a new aspect and a new perspective. And and if people can buy my book, they can jumpstart their journey. It's called Quantum Marketing. And I'm, of course, the author of the book.
Perfect. We're going to have links to all of those in the show notes that I mentioned. You can see those notes in your podcast player and on giantrobots.fm. Thank you so much again, Raja. This podcast is brought to you by thoughtbot. Thanks you for listening. See you next time.
Thank you.
Great. Perfect.